Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special feature of the Leadership Circle at Fit Summit. I'm joined now by the two gentlemen behind Body Fit Training, also known as BFT, which is taking the Asia Pacific market by storm and soon to be on a shore near you. I'm joined by Falloon and also Rich Burnet, the co-CEOs of BFT. Gents, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining me here today. You're just about to open your 100th club, quite an achievement. If I could come to you, Cam, first, how does that feel?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. Thanks for having us on. It's hugely exciting. You know, from seeing this grow from, to be honest, the dining room of my home many years ago, and through Rich's enormous involvement in helping to grow the brand, it's a huge milestone to hit 100 sites. We've just hit over 200 sales, 20,000 members, and opening our 100th site all within a month. And I think it's one thing to have a great product, but probably the most pleasing thing for us is the people that we've got involved in our network. It's pretty humbling to sit back and look at the people and the quality of the people that have invested in your product, the quality of the people in our head office, and the impact that we're having on those 20,000+ members in the various regions of the world that we're in. So it's really exciting for us. Very proud moment. And to be honest, we probably, Rich and I and some of the others that involved, Hamish is a silent partner, we probably don't stop and actually smell the roses too often. So yeah, hopefully we will in a couple of weeks' time when that 100th store opens, and we can sit back and just reflect on the journey. It's been a really good one, a really fast and a really fun one.
Rich, I take it the same with you, bursting with pride?
Yeah, absolutely. Cam touched on it. They were 3 KPIs that we set internally for ourselves: 100 open, 200 franchises sold, and 20,000 members. And we've smashed through the latter 2, and we're just about to open that 100th. So it's humbling, actually, to be honest, Ross. And special mention, I guess, to the staff at BFT HQ who have helped us do that. They've been tremendous along the journey, and you know what it's like when you're a staff member with a fledgling company. You don't know where it's going to go, so they put a lot of faith in BFT, and obviously the franchisees. We always thank them for the trust they've placed in us and our brand, because without them we wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
Before we look at the here and now, and before we even move further into the future, let's take a little bit of a reflective step, gents. It's been a fast-growing business, as you know, but there's obviously been some highlights and some lowlights. Coming to you first, Cam, can you pick a particular lowlight or highlight that you can share with the audience?
The lowlights, to be honest, Ross, I think are just the ebbs and flows of business. So I really haven't had a moment in time where I've really had that point where I've gone, oh my God, this is terrible, or how do I get out of this? Or I think any entrepreneur has a level of naivety going into business, and as a result, that's probably a really good thing, because you don't see the problems, you only see the potential and the opportunity. So I was definitely naive starting this. So let's chalk that up to not too many lows. I mean, the highs are the recent conference we had, and after the year that we've had, seeing 150 people in person, and the excitement around the brand and the great people that we've got in the network. It's having great relationships with my business partners, Rich and Haim, and you hear so many horror stories about business partnerships. So I'm really fortunate that I've got great partners. We play our role, we support each other, we don't get hung up on the small stuff, and for people to come into the brand at an early stage like Rich and Haim did, I've been really fortunate for them to bring their skill sets and to grow the brand with me. So I think the highlight is the people, to be really honest. An awesome opportunity for us. At the moment, there's 20,000+ that we're impacting. We want that to be 1 million+, and that's the highlight. To see the smiling faces, to see the results, to see our product and our brand really impacting people's lives positively, and especially through last year when there was so much uncertainty and anxiety around what was happening around the world, we were able to maintain I guess a bit of a constant with our programming, whether that was in studio or online. So just the positive impact that it's having on people with BFT is for me a real highlight. Absolutely.
How about yourself, Rich? Obviously, people are a huge part of this, but any personal highlight over the past couple of years?
Thanks, Cam, for not putting me in your low light bucket. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, well, the low light, I guess, firstly, was one that sticks out, Ross, and we talked about it last when we caught up on a Zoom, having to stand down staff. We actually stood down staff last year, so that was a real low light. It was pretty tough. The highlight was that we re-employed them a week later. So we might have had the shortest stand down in the history of the fitness industry of a week, but there was a combination of seeing some light in some states with restrictions easing, but also Cam and I spending that week to nut through what 2020 looked like for us. And we made the call, albeit not without huge amount of trepidation, that in order for us to grow as a brand, we were actually going to need to get everyone on, whether it were full-time or part-time, back straight away to really set ourselves up for success with the amount of store openings we needed in the next sort of 6 to 9 months. So that was absolutely a highlight, I think, just recognising the importance of getting ahead of the game in this space. And for me personally too, there's a lot of noise about people saying to us, don't allow this year to define yourselves. You know, it'll be a blip in the radar, you can get through it and move on. And I think when I realized, and Cam and I didn't explicitly talk about this, but it was kind of like, well, let's allow this year to define us. Let's make this year the year that defines BFT, as opposed to the opposite, where we're kind of treating it as that blip that we've just got to get through. What would it actually mean if in 5 years' time we looked back and said 2020 actually defined BFT because of the way we handled and the way we're able to grow? So that's a massive highlight for me personally. I guess that realization and that switch in thinking that allowed us to focus on the growth story and being defined by it. And I truly think if Cam and I look back in 5 years, we'll think that was the year that not only did we maintain the enormous growth that we had, but we upped the ante again, and we put stuff in place to make sure that 2021 and beyond was really successful for the brand.
It's a great point, Rich. I think the mindset for looking at 2020 as a year of positivity and change is one that I can definitely relate to here at Fit Summit. I think 2020 has definitely defined our network and our business. Cam, let's swing back to you. You talked about the ebbs and the flows of business and obviously moving through them, but you've moved through them so quickly in the past few years in building up the business. What have been the keys to your success, and why has this kind of growth been, in anyone's standard, accelerated?
Yeah, it's probably really hard to summarize that in a couple of sentences in the next minute or two, Ross, but I mean, I think really you've got to have the right product, and I think we've identified a niche in the market, and so that's put us on given us a good platform from which to build upon. You know, the people who invested in us early, we're forever grateful for. They've taken a punt, as Rich said earlier, on us as people. They've backed us in our vision and the brand, and they've absolutely done a lot of heavy lifting for us. So one of our philosophies, and you know, it was Rich touched on it in terms of how we attacked COVID with regards to putting staff back on it. Even we actually doubled our staff through COVID and provided more support for our franchisees. Was if you can go in with understanding there's three really critical people in this, and it's our franchisees, it's the members, and then it's head office, obviously. And if the members aren't getting a great quality product and great service, they're not going to be members. They'll find there's just so much competition. They'll find somewhere else to go. If we don't provide as head office great training opportunities, great processes, great systems, innovative technology, etc., they then don't have the ability to then give that great member experience. And then equally at head office, if we're not pushing the envelope and also hiring great people, and we've got very, very good staff involved at BFT, then it all falls down. And so in essence, it's a really simple model. Head office and BFT doesn't survive unless we provide support, infrastructure, IP, and we continue to innovate for our franchisees, but then give them the skills to pass that on to their members. And I think ultimately that provides the platform, and that's really as simple and as technical, to be quite honest, as it needs to get. If all of those three key stakeholders are winning, we win as a brand, and we continue to grow and prosper. And that's where we've put our time and energy into, is having appropriate resources, getting ahead of resources from a head office perspective, as Rich touched on before, making sure we're getting really good people that can have a really positive influence from day one in their role, and letting them run with that, with their role. And if we can do that and give the franchisees the best opportunity to be successful, that's where we need to keep our thinking and keep pushing the envelope. And then, I mean, there's the obvious. I could talk about Rich's contribution to the business for the next hour if you'd like, but Rich brings an amazing skill set, has done an enormous amount on the brand and in the sales and the back end with the marketing initiatives, and all of that needs to be done to drive the business. But ultimately, if we keep our eye on the three key stakeholders being successful, and understanding that we can't drop the ball on either one of them, that puts us in a pretty good place.
Well, look, obviously those three verticals have been working well to produce such fast growth. Cam, let's stick on growth, Rich. Now, let's talk initially about national and regional growth, and then we'll swing back to international. How much upside is there left for BFT around Australia and the region? What are your plans for the next couple of years?
Australia is obviously our heartland, and it always will be. We started in Melbourne, started selling franchises from Melbourne, and funnily enough, Melbourne's pretty much sold out now. So that's fantastic for us. It helps us really with some of those broader marketing initiatives that we can now go forward with, Ross, especially some sort of above the line stuff that we haven't contemplated before, just because we haven't had that ability to, you know, for someone to hear about BFT and know that they've got one with kind of within 10 or 15 minute drive from them. And either now they have, or they will have in the next few months as they open. So that's really exciting for us. The rest of Australia though is booming. We're probably at the point, I would say, within 12 months, we'll get close to selling out in Australia. So that's tremendously exciting for us. The Sydney's going gangbusters, as is Brisbane, and Perth and Adelaide's nearly sold out. You mentioned regional, and the regional areas aren't lost on us. In fact, at our conference, we kind of did a reflection back and got people who were first in particular markets to stand up for us and to acknowledge those people who were the ones who were the pioneers, if you like, for the brand in different geographies or different countries. And that included regional. So the guys in Bendigo, Chris and Reese Tui, who opened BFT Bendigo, they were the first ones to take a stab in a regional location. And of course, then that opens the door for your Port Macquaries and your Ballarats and your Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, all of these places that may not have been as at the forefront of people's minds. So regional's got some great opportunity and upside as well. But yeah, I would say in answer to your question, nationally, give it sort of 12 months or so, and hopefully we'll be close to 400 to 500 studios.
Well, normally someone would try and tackle the national market first, Rich, and obviously then think about international expansion. But you're already working on international expansion through Singapore and the US. Can you share some updates on those two countries, and perhaps if there's any other countries in the pipeline?
Yeah, certainly. It was a conscious decision of ours to say, okay, we will allow ourselves to expand and grow only if our franchisees allow that. In other words, as long as the brand is strong and the franchisees are strong, then that for us is the tick, if you like, to say we can go off and dabble in other markets. The moment that we look back and think that the model is weak, either, as Cam mentioned, from a stakeholder perspective, both from a member or from a franchisee, that's the moment we need to stop and reset before thinking about growth. Luckily, we hopefully through good management rather than good luck, we've been able to keep an eye on Australia, make sure that's really bedded in and tucked in, and franchisees are growing at the rate that we hope they will, but then expand, as you say, into other countries at the same time, because it does take a long time, as anyone who's opened in new geographies knows. And Cam knows I'm spending half my time with lawyers doing new franchise contracts and FTDs and getting set up in different countries. It's a huge amount of work, and it takes a lot of time to get going. But Singapore and New Zealand have both been very successful for us over the last 12 months. And we've got real strongholds there now, which will see big growth in the next 12 months. So they're both really exciting, but probably, and obviously the most exciting opportunity for us is North America, particularly the US. Canada, we're getting some good traction, but the US, we've got a BFT on both coasts and starting to sell right throughout the country now. So that's obviously where the big market opportunity is. That's where we're putting a lot of our efforts in 2021, notwithstanding that we'll always get queries. I've got 3 hours of Zooms to narrow down some opportunities in Indonesia this afternoon. Yeah, we're looking for opportunities like Indonesia to come next. And of course, we're really excited about the UK. That's just a natural evolution of our brand. And back half of this year, we'll be making some inroads there. So we don't discount any country. We kind of go where we know the model will work, and we're really confident that the brand will be able to sustain itself and grow no matter which geography it is.
Exciting times, Rich, and looking forward to seeing what other countries come into the BFP pipeline. Cam, let's look at the franchise proposal as a whole. The franchise market has definitely picked up in the past few months as markets reopen post-COVID. What has been most attractive to potential franchisees and franchisees about the BFT proposal? Maybe let's talk specifically about economics. The break-even numbers, of course, are so important. Is there a normal break-even number in terms of membership that BFT must try and get to try and make things viable?
Yeah, it's hard to say, and obviously we can't make representations, Ross. That's rent. The rent is obviously the big differentiating factor amongst the varying sites and their break-even point, but you know, if you went broadly somewhere between that 120 to 150 members broadly is break-even point. We're really buoyed by the growth of the network, and as the brand's evolved and getting more recognition within the marketplace, and we're getting better sophisticated with our pre-sales processes. I think our next 5 sites to open this weekend and next weekend. I don't think there's anyone under 170 members in their pre-sale as it currently stands. So that's fantastic for us as a brand, that people can be on day one operational break even. The payback period is around about the 19-month mark. So the unit economics are really, really attractive for potential investors. As you know, it's a high yield, low investment model. And I think through COVID, and you saw it in the GFC, that people, whether they're in corporate world or other, that they've lost their job or they've been made redundant, or maybe have thought that they were potentially worth more to the company than how they've been treated. And naturally that leads them to, well, I've got a skill set. I'd like to potentially take a bit more control and have life in my own destiny, in my own hands, I should say. And what we can provide now is, nearly 100 sites with fairly good metrics, good growth stories, lots of head office support, infrastructure and process that gives them confidence that they may not be pure fitness people, but they can run a good business. But we can provide the support in all of the other areas off the back of those metrics that we talked about, which are that initial member number to get to the break-even point, and then at an operational level, and then also your payback period, which is very attractive.
Rich, let's take, for example, somebody does a pre-sale at 170 members, or at the very least 170. They've got that momentum as they open up the business. You obviously work with people that are experts in franchise, perhaps new to franchise. What are some of the do's and the don'ts for somebody who is launching a franchise business at the moment?
Yeah, it's a $1 million question, and it's a really, really good one. And hopefully what I say is applicable to all fitness franchises, not just BFT. But for us, Ross, what we emphasize throughout the process, whether it's through the selling process to the franchisees or their onboarding or the intensive boot camp that we do, firstly, I think is we emphasize freedom within a framework. And we talk about that a lot with our franchisees. So they bought into a franchise because they need a framework, they want a framework, they want processes, they want systems, they want reliability, they want best practice, they want the feeling that they belong to something. So we provide that within a framework. And we kind of say within that framework, go for your life, build the best community you possibly can, use your leadership and your training, whether it's technical training or business training, to make that studio the best it possibly can be. If you want to go outside the framework that we've set you as a franchisee, it doesn't necessarily mean no, but it absolutely means let's have the discussion first, because it's so easy for franchisees to think they need to be everything to everyone and to try to jump out of that framework. If they want to do that, that's fine, but go and set up Ross's gym. We're BFT, we do it the BFT way. We're proud of the way we do it. We know our system works. So it comes back to that trust that you've brought into a framework. Stick to that framework. That's number one, to get the basics right, I guess. Number two is start strong, as strong as you can. And Cam touched on it, but there's, for us, given it is high margin, low volume business, there's not one more important thing you can do than to start off with a great member number. If you can start off with that member number, you're going to go really, really well. And we bang on about it until the cows come home. 8 weeks out, we want our franchisees selling to make sure that they get a really, really strong membership number. So it's all about that for us. And then, of course, you've got a lot of work to do going forward, but getting that member number right and understanding that it might be so tempting to spend your time painting the walls or to putting down flooring or to, do other things while you're trying to open, but you can't actually spend any more important time than being on the phone selling. You've just got to sell, and you've got to make sure you get those members in the door. So we talk about that a lot, and that'd be number two, starting off really strong, because it sets the basis for all your referrals, for your community, for your vibe and intensity of your classes, and just the overall feeling that people are in something that's really humming. And I guess the final one there is to play to your strengths. So no one is perfect at everything. And for franchisees to understand where their strengths are and where they're not is critical. Firstly, you've got to acknowledge that. And then secondly, you've actually got to play it out. As I just mentioned, a practical example of pre-sales, working out where you need to be. But if you can play to your strengths and stick to your lane, so to speak, it means that you can say, right, I'm not good at that. I'm going to get the very best person who is good at that to help me here. And hopefully we've got that within our network to actually provide that support and assurance, so that you can be a complementary outfit and make sure that you're covering all bases. But the moment you try to verge out of your lane and try to be everything to everyone is, in our view, a bit of a recipe for disaster, because you're trying to be a jack of all trades. You're not focused on one thing, and you'll lose sight of what you're there to do, which is to A, acquire members, and B, retain them by providing the best possible training and the best possible community. So they're the must-dos, and I know you want to know what the don't-dos are as well. I'd say a couple of things there. I wrote down a couple of notes. One is the opposite of staying in your lane, which is don't go out of your lane. We've already talked about that, but maybe the most important one is just know that it's not going to be easy. Being a business owner, mate, you know it, we know it. It's not easy, no matter who you are. So to think that either you've started off with a great member number and it's going to be smooth sailing, or that people will just walk in the door and sign up, no matter how good the product is you've got to work damn hard, and you've got to be prepared to be absolutely ruthless in your intent, that single-minded intent to start well and to work damn hard in order for you to be coming out the other side with a really attractive profit behind you, because you've built up that member base. So, you know, they're my two big ones in terms of what mustn't you do, and don't lose sight of it is really, really hard work, but rewarding nonetheless.
I think they're great examples of how do you set someone up for success. It's so important to build that community where people can learn from each other. And part of that community, of course, is having all your franchisees together to learn and to share. Now, you've just had your national conference. Cam, let's talk about that. Obviously, great to be around so many like-minded people. We're a little bit jealous in Singapore to not be able to do that just yet, but fantastic that you guys did that. What were some of the takeaways from that live event?
Yeah, Ross, it was an amazing weekend, to be really honest, and probably went off without a hitch and far exceeded even our own expectations. To go through last year and to continue to sell at the rate that we did, and credit to Jason and the team that you know, they're doing sales over Zoom, and we had Fort Lauderdale open, and we'd never met the owners of Fort Lauderdale, the trainers, everything was done via Zoom to get them open. So unfortunately, we couldn't have a lot of the various regions, WA, Singapore, New Zealand and America with us, but we almost had 150 people there, and it was just great to get people together. We had a guest speaker, Matt Church, who said these conferences are great, and you'll hear lots of great things, and you know, there'll be the sales pitch from us about the brand and how great we are, etc. But the magic happens in the conversations, in the corridors, when you're sharing a coffee or a beer over lunch, and that was absolutely the case. Rich and I, and I'm sure the staff, have been overwhelmed with messages since the conference of just how positive it was for people to be together. And there was a lot of uncertainty, and we certainly had some knockers and some criticism around actually forging ahead and setting a date and doing it, given the uncertainty and the changing nature that is what we're living right now. But we just felt that it was hugely important as a brand to get people together, and ultimately the government restrictions would have dictated that pre getting to Queensland. We were up in Noosa, which is not a bad location to have a conference. But we took a risk, and it was really in the aim of getting people together and sharing best practice and developing relationships and working together. And that's what our network is about. Is we don't want to build silos and have different BFT franchisees just doing their own thing. We operate better, and we'll go to a higher level if we can work together as a network, and if we can share best practice and learn from each other. And that was certainly what came out of the weekend, was just, I think we know it, and human beings like being around human beings in general, and just that connection and connectedness that we got from the weekend was well overdue, was really overdue. And I know everyone's been through some hard times, but people in Victoria were locked up for 32 weeks with businesses closed last year. So I think it was just a big risk, but an awesome initiative, and we're very grateful that it paid off.
I think it's fantastic, guys, you did it. I think if there's a chance for us as a community, as an industry, to push the bar forward and make sure we can come together safely, I think we should take every opportunity to do so. Rich, any further thoughts or takeaways from the conference for yourself?
Cam's highlighted that really well. The feelings from me are absolutely consistent with that. Our tagline, Ross, is different, better. And we coined the conference different, better, together, which was a bit of a play on, last year having to stay apart to be together, but also just that, as Cam mentioned, we can do so much more when we're all together. And I think what really resonated for us was that people needed it. They needed to come together. Again, I said it before, that's what being part of a franchise is all about, that feeling that you belong to something. So to have like-minded people in a room to be able to share war stories, good and bad, about last year, but also be excited that we're hopefully through the worst of this, and we're going to come out the other side okay, just gave them all just this renewed excitement and focus. And that was the intention. It was risky to do. We don't mind taking a few risks at BFT, but it paid off. And yeah, we're delighted that it went really, really well.
Let's dig a bit deeper into your membership, gents, because one of the things that would surprise me, which I didn't know until we spoke recently, was that 60% of your members are female. Now, some might think that's a little bit strange given the dynamic of strength and conditioning and high intensity. Cam, what are your thoughts on this ratio? It's obviously fantastic. Is this by luck, by design? Why are so many women attracted to the BFT proposal?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Ross, and it's one that we are really proud of. And I mean, we would love more females, but we would love more males as well. But I think there's just a growing trend around the world that, you know, you've heard phrases like "strong is the new skinny," and certainly in America, there's a trend towards this women being thick. You know, the bigger booty, the stronger female. It's quite, you know, we know it's empowering, and I think the mix of the strength and resistance programs that we have, so 75% of our programs are strength based, and 25% are cardio and high intensity based. And I think that they're feeling just the benefits of that, that maybe they've never been exposed to before. And with the awesome job that our franchisees and their coaches do within the studio, our progressive model of training, where it's not just come in and flog yourself to death every day. There's a methodology to it, and you get the opportunity to actually learn a skill, and build upon that over an 8-week cycle, I think is really attractive for females and males, to be really honest, Ross. The other thing is women with group training tend to be more so than males the early adopters. So they're more likely to jump into a group training model more so than most men. So that's great for us because they're more likely to try it. But the communities that our franchisees build and the way they coach and the way we program and progress things, and our use of technology to give them live feedback that, again, they may not be getting in a gym environment necessarily. So I think that there's a lot of factors, but more than anything, I think women are enjoying strength training. They're enjoying feeling empowered by it, knowing that I can get stronger. I don't, you know, the old connotation, you know, years ago was women shouldn't lift weights, you'll get big and bulky, and it's always this bodybuilder sort of image in the back of your mind, and we just know that that's not the case. So for women to feel stronger, feel empowered, to embrace their bodies, I think that's really where the industry is going, and that's been fantastic for our model.
Let me stick with that, Cam. Obviously, I'm going to pull from the fact that people are coming back into studios more often. They really want to get back into community, back into physical training, into groups. But of course, there has been a huge acceleration in the past 12 months of the virtual dynamics of fitness. What are your thoughts on virtual fitness, on hybridization? How does that play in with the future BFT model, with the future BFT offering to members?
Yeah, we like a lot of providers, we went online, and the goal for us was really to keep the connection between our franchisees and their members and maintain that community. So we developed an online platform. We had a body weight program and a resisted program, which was primarily what you can find at home in regards to resistance and/or you know, power bands and mini bands, etc. I think it has a place. What we definitely saw was numbers drop off as the years went on, and as the year went on. What we do know, and again to the previous question about why that ratio is so high with women, is we just know that you need to overload your body. Your body just needs that stimulus to be able to continue to develop in whatever area that is, whether it's strength or power or hypertrophy or cardiovascular health. That doing things at home with just your body weight is absolutely fantastic. But when you're trying to do it as a broader group, you know, you're trying to take a group environment into a home now, it's not as specific to the individual. We can be more specific within the studio. So to answer your question, I think it has a place. It absolutely has a place. I'm the coach. I like being with people. I like really driving their performance. It's really hard to, you know, coach someone a kettlebell clean or a snatch if you're not in person with them. So I think that there's been much like we talked about with the conference, where there was this real want and desire for people to get back together and connect, we've seen a huge resurgence of members back into our studios, because not just because of the training, but to be in that group environment and feel the energy of a group class, to feel like it's back to their community. It's their 1 hour a day where it's all about them, and they're going to get someone paying attention to them. And again, at home and in the virtual world, that's not always the case, because you've got the kids running around, or the dog or the cat or whatever. So I think it has its place. I think it will certainly, the last 12 months has evolved the online platforms in the virtual world, which is a fantastic thing. And hopefully there's a lot more exciting stuff to come out of that space. But for me personally, you just can't replace personal interaction and that personal experience and the energy of a group in that group training environment.
Yeah, we're following Australia and New Zealand very closely, because of course you're coming out of this fastest, with the exception of China. But we're very interested to see the balance, or where we end up when it comes to hybridization. Is it 5% virtual, 10% virtual? Is it 50% virtual for some studios? Very interesting to see. Rich, one final question. A snapshot of today: almost 100 clubs open, 200 almost sold, 20,000 members. Fast forward 24 months. What does success look like then?
I'm not going to give you a number, because hand on heart, Cam and I really haven't ever set a number. It sounds strange, but again, I go back to saying we will grow as fast as our franchisees allow us to grow. But in terms of what success looks like, Ross, in 24 months, I would honestly say success for me looks like a group of franchisees who are pleased that they brought into Body Fit training, that they think that what Cam and I have done and how we've supported them has been fair and respectful in every way, and that ultimately we've delivered what we said we would deliver to them. And if we can get that right, then I know that when franchisees are thinking about which company to buy into, and they pick up the phone randomly and call a BFT owner, even if they're not as financially as successful as they would hope, they're going to talk about, hopefully, the integrity that we've got behind our brand, that it's a values-driven and values decision-making process that we have, and that they would feel supported. And if we can get those responses, we're not stupid. We know people have got a choice, but we think then that we'd be doing something right, and I'd be really proud.
As you should be, Rich. I think that is all the goal, making sure our customers are happier and healthier. And if you can do that, what more can you ask for? Cam, any last minute thoughts from you?
No, I mean, I echo what Rich says. We definitely are a values-driven brand. And from day one, we actually recently shared a photo that I took of the very first whiteboard session Rich and I did together, and we put it to the staff and said, we want you to hold us to account. Are we actually delivering this? They'd never seen it before, so that was an interesting process. And probably the number one thing that we would like for people to say about us is that we're fair. So if people can say that about us, and this time next year, instead of 20,000 members, I'd love it to be 60,000 members. As I said, as long as we can continue to grow and impact more and more people's lives positively through the BFT platform, then I'll be a pretty happy camper.
Cam, Rich, thank you very much, gents, for a great conversation. Thank you for leading the way in terms of continuing to build out business, and it's great to see so much positivity and momentum coming from the BFT brand. So gents, thank you very much for your time. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.